Welcome everybody to Facebook Live. I just want to start by saying I appreciate all of your understanding for me having to cancel last week's. Generally I don't tend to share a lot of personal details, especially when it comes to my kids. But something guided me to put it out there, and I was amazed and so grateful for the response I got. All of you who wrote in your prayers and your positive energy, it wasn't fear or worry. It was this pure positive energy directed at us. And while it may or may not have changed the outcome, which was good, Sam is doing well, it really did shift the energy around the situation. So it brought all of us from a place of fear into love, and I could feel it. So again, thank you. And as always, I appreciate your support. So here we are at Facebook Live. Welcome to all my new members, and welcome to all of you who are joining me again. This is just a reminder, this is not me sitting here doing channeling or readings. This is a conversation between you and I, and we're answering your questions. Sometimes psychic information does come through. Sometimes I get hit with a loud, noisy spirit over here. Somebody's father telling me to say something, and I absolutely honor that if that happens. Okay, so I'm ready for the questions, and here we go.
Okay, so we do have a bunch of questions that were asked on July 26th when we were going to do that one. So this one comes from Lisa, and she says, it's a crazy question, but what does heavenly energy look like? In the early morning hours, when I sit on the porch to pray, I see waviness in the world around me, and is there a way to see and understand more about this? Or should I just accept the energetic waves as a gift and move along?
That's a great question. You know, I love that you said wavy, because that is the perfect way to describe what I see as well. So what I have also described it to look like is if you're looking at a distance at a pavement on a hot summer day and the heat rising, it's that gasoline-like energy, wavy. That is spirit energy. That is heavenly energy, angelic energy. So then when you see sparks of light out of the corner of your eye, those are oftentimes angels or deceased loved ones. The higher up, in my experience, the more angelic they are. So if they're kind of close to you or around, eye level, that's going to be a departed loved one. And then on the ground are typically pets that have died. So when you get glimpses, you're not making that up. And when you meditate, you can actually tune into it. So when I do readings, oftentimes I'm looking at the wavy energy or the spirit, the sparkle light. And I'll just start almost like I'm looking in the distance at nothing. I'm tuning into the vibration, the energy, and that's how telepathic communication works. So I would encourage you to sit with that and tune into it.
So this next question is from Steph, and it's also kind of about seeing spirit. And so when this has happened to her for many years. When she's sleeping in bed and in the middle of the night, she sometimes jumps out of her sleep and literally jumps back. She sees people standing in the room in front of her bed, but only for a second, and then it goes away. It seems real, and she really sees something, and she feels a little crazy too. And she's tried to figure out what it is, but it's kind of what's happening if you see things, or you see spirit, or when you first start seeing things.
Well, so first of all, that is not crazy, and it's a very common thing to experience in the sleep state, either going into it or coming out of it. And the reason for that is that here, when we operate in our day-to-day lives, we're in three-dimensional reality. And then when we dream or meditate, we shift to a higher vibration of four-dimensional reality. And then when we go even higher, again, whether it's through dreams, astral traveling, where our soul literally leaves the body during our deep sleep state and travels to higher dimensions, what I call the other side, or deep meditation, that's fifth dimension and beyond, and it's the higher heavens. And last night, I slept so deep. It was wonderful. And I was somewhere. I was in a schoolroom. I was teaching. I was learning. And I do this a lot. And I know what's going on because over the years, it's happened so much. I've inquired. My soul is going back to the other side to meet up with some of my soul group. to download more, what I'm ready for, next steps on what I'm here to do with my life's purpose. And then I come back. It's not always conscious. Sometimes it's subconscious. But the point is, the reason it's happening then for you is because you've surrendered. Your mind isn't controlling. And so it's easier to connect into that energy. So I have to believe on some level your higher self is feeling safe and comfortable, even if your human self, your mind, is either concerned or scared or overwhelmed or confused. So what I would do is I would just pray and set the intention that as long as it's pure positive energy, whether it's departed loved ones you're seeing, spirit guides or whoever, that it's in your highest and best good. And so long as your intention is there, there's nothing dark or negative or evil that can hurt you. And to me, also, I'm getting this for you, that is your way to connect in. So we all have different ways to tap into our guidance. I feel like they're trying to help you. So they're coming to you for a reason. So why don't you get curious and start asking? And then if you just put it out there, and you don't have to ask out loud. You can ask just with an intention from your heart. They'll hear you, and you'll start getting more interactive communication.
Great. So this one's from Wendy, and how do you turn it off when your clairs are developing? Wendy kind of tells a story to explain what she means, but she's evidently in the development, and like she'll hear the voice of her dad, or some of it's coming in, so some clairaudience, but then she's like talking to her lawyer, and her lawyer would think she's crazy if she's trying to So how do you turn it off when you're developing your clairs and you're not as practiced?
Right. You can't turn it off. We're not that powerful. It's energy. Energy doesn't go away. It doesn't die. You can turn it up or down. You can tune into it or not. That's your free will. So yes, there's so many times I'm out socially, I'll hear things. I'll see things. Honestly, I don't want to. Like, there is such a thing as boundaries and too much information at times. And so you have to just be selective on what to do with it in that moment. You can acknowledge it, thank them for talking to you, humor them, but you don't always have to respond. You can nicely ask your dad in spirit if he's like distracting you and you're trying to have a real conversation with someone in this world. Dad, later. Let's connect later. Okay, go away. But come back. You don't want to push him away forever. But you do have control to a certain degree. These loved ones who are coming to you love you, and they're going to respect that. But they have personalities. So if they were playful in life, you bet they're going to come in and bug you. But on some level, I know you want that. So anyways, it's just a matter of choosing to tune in or not.
Great. So this next question from Trish is somewhat related. So she's been having major dreams this last week, and they really seem real, and they definitely seem to be forecasting future events, some maybe not so good for the people in her dreams. So her question is like, what to do with that information? Does she sit on it, bless the person or other people involved? Does she pass it along?
Yeah.
She was guided to get out of bed and take notes, and then she was told to take a picture with her camera to document it. But it sounds like that's where she stopped. So what do we do when we get stuff like that?
Right. It's a great question. Excuse me. In my beginning years of doing this, I learned the hard way, and I relate everything at any time of day to anyone that came to me. And what I realized is that was not a responsible way of handling this gift, because you have to feel out the situation, the person. Is it the right time? Spirits, again, they are like humans. They are eager to connect. They have wants, needs, desires. While good and well-intentioned, it doesn't mean it's always appropriate. So oftentimes when you get information and you have a response, an emotional response where, oof, that doesn't feel good, or you have resistance to telling somebody the message or talking about it, see that as guidance not to. Anytime I get that feeling, I just let it be. Sometimes when I'm in a reading and I get information, generally I share it because I pray and ask only what that person needs to hear in that moment come through. And if it doesn't show up, they're not needing to know it. But even if I get it and I'm sensing I'm not supposed to share it or I need to delicately deliver it, I take a moment and pray and ask God and guides to work through me. Should I share this? And if so, do it through me. And I do that without telling the person I'm working with. And then it always works out. So that's not your ego, right? Deciding this need I have to share. Sometimes we want to share because first we just need validation. Like, is this real? And I need you to tell me because I don't know. Only you can validate that. Sometimes and it feels like this is the case for you, you just want to serve. You want to honor the fact they're coming to you and using you, which is beautiful. But you also, at the end of the day, have to be the judge and let your higher self be the judge, not your human self.
Great. I like that question. So this one's from Jessie, and the question is, well, basically, I'm not sure if Jessie's a boy or girl, but they want to know all about guardian angels. So I don't know if you just want to talk about the basics or where somebody can learn more about guardian angels, or
yeah, guardian. It's a very good question. Guardian angels. I have on my website this hierarchy of team spirit, and so it's a diagram. But guardian angels, they're basically. So there's different dominions of angels, and then everybody who comes into a body comes in with a guardian angel, usually one. I've heard of occasionally, sometimes people have two, and they're probably more complex and need more assistance. But everybody has that guardian angel who's with them from birth until death, and the job, think of it as like a personal assistant meets a bodyguard. Okay, so you have these two molded into this energetic being who is there to keep you out of harm's way, to help you feel safe, to love you unconditionally, especially in dark times in your life, and to remind you of your purpose. Okay, because the guardian angel knows why you're in a body to begin with. And so when you can meditate, that was when, in my very beginning days, it was my guardian angel, Maya, who presented herself to me, and my grandma, Babe, who was my spirit guide. Because my guardian angel had access to the Akashic records, my soul's purpose for being here. And then Grandma Babe considered her like the spirit guide as a teacher for a subject for a period of time, like a year, okay, whatever it was. So it's really important you get to know your guardian angel, because they're there. They're just waiting patiently, lovingly, quietly in the corner until you choose to work with them. And I would say the best way to do that is meditation. But if you struggle with that because your mind is getting in the way and you feel like you're making it up, when you go to bed at night, pray and ask your guardian angel to come into your dreams and to work with you and talk to you and reveal itself. And then just keep doing it. And I promise you, you will start to form this relationship that is very real. So hopefully that answers your question. The last thing I would say is Doreen Virtue, who was one of my teachers. She's known as the Angel Lady because she is the expert in everything angels. So check out Doreen Virtue's information. She has tons of great books on angels.
Great. So this next question is from Dana. This is her first Facebook Live, so welcome, Dana. She asks, where do you recommend going to learn about crystals and crystal healing?
Okay, so I'm not an expert in crystals. However, since I got into this years ago, I love crystals. I'm just very drawn to them. And this was the book. It's Love is in the Earth by Melody. This is like my crystal Bible. I'm sure there's great, material out there, but this is the one I've been using, and it's pretty amazing. It has everything you would want to know about crystals. So that's pretty much all I can offer you. I would just say to you, as with anything, if you need to go deeper into your connection and working with crystals, pray and ask your higher guidance to show you where those resources are. And I promise you the synchronicity will show up where the next day somebody's going to mention something and then you hear it 3 times in 1 week. See that as your angels up there answering your question.
Great. So I'm going to kind of combine. We have Lori and Maria both have lost someone very close to them and they want to know that they're okay. It's a very common question I know we get. But Susan, I think, kind of combined it. She just wants to know how she can know her relatives are okay on the other side instead of Lori and Maria were asking about their specific people. So.
That's a good question. You know, we all want to believe they're okay, and 99% of the time they are. There's that occasional situation where a spirit is stuck between dimensions, which I call a lost soul or ghost. And eventually they will cross over once they surrender control and are guided over by their guides and angels. But it really comes down to a feeling. So it's sometimes hard to separate your own personal feelings of suffering, pain, and loss from them. But if you can pray about it and ask them to help you feel them, it's kind of like mother's intuition. For anyone who has kids, or father's intuition, but for anyone who has kids, there's this etheric, invisible cord. They're called etheric cords that connects you to people. Kids I'm using as one example. It could be your lover. It could be your best friend. But it's people that you are soulmates or very strongly connected with that you feel them telepathically. They could be on a safari across the world, but you just know what's going on. And then later they call you and confirm. Okay? So the same goes with the spirits in the afterlife. They're not, again, picture them like on a long trip in a foreign country. They're still there, but you don't have the physical means to communicate that. So what you have to rely on is telepathic means. And so what you would do is pray and meditate and ask them to help you feel them. How are you? Help me feel you. A lot of times in readings, I definitely feel them. I can feel if they're excited, if they're torn, like they miss you, but they're good. But they'll show me an example of what brought them great joy in life. Like somebody is on a golf course, Pebble Beach. And then that person says, oh my God, my dad's last trip and favorite by far trip was Pebble Beach. They'll say that because it gives you a frame of reference. So well, God, if he's golfing all day at Pebble Beach, he's super happy. I'm not worried about him. So usually the spirits are resting happily on the other side, and it's the living that's struggling. Okay. And that really is the reason why I do this work, because I know they're good, and I know they want you to know they're good. And if you know they're good, it sometimes helps you heal and for you to be better in this world. So talk to them and just trust what you get.
Great. So Debbie is online right now. So this is not from her previous question, but she says, hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Debbie.
She's glad she was able to listen live. She's in Auckland, so she's in Australia. So she's a little ways away.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. She says, I think you're amazing. But her question is, I would like to know if I have a spirit watching over me as I wake up every day at 3 or 4 a.m., but she's not sure. So who is it and why? Or what is she?
Yeah. Excuse me. That is a very common time to be woken up. It's usually between 3 and 6 a.m. The spirits, let's say you're not making enough time during your days to pray and meditate, which let's be real, we're busy. I don't always do it. They're going to rely on a time when your mind is quieted, which is during that time, because you've been deep enough, delta waves, sleep, that they can get through. You don't really need to know who it is unless you want to. Then you go into inquiry. Start asking them, whether it's out loud or just from your heart. But you just need to make sure it feels loving and good. Because I've heard many stories where people are woken up by unfriendly visitors. Because again, it's not that they're unfriendly. It's that they have ego still tied up in them, and they have needs, and they're bugging you at 3 a.m. selfishly to pay attention. It's like a little kid who's like having a tantrum, like, pay attention to me. It's not okay. And that's where you have to set boundaries. So again, I always do this, and I would encourage all of you to, when you go to bed at night, pray. Nothing formal, or maybe if you have a formal prayer, use it, whatever it is. Set the intention that you invite in all your loved ones, guides, and angels, if it's in your highest good. If it's going to serve you, anything that you need to heal or shift or clear your energy, any guidance you need, just say something along those lines and let it go. And then if you keep waking up, that's amazing. It just means your guides are working with you, and a lot of times they wake you up so you don't forget it. because so often I don't remember because I sleep through. I don't wake up, and it's very fuzzy, or I don't remember anything. So write it down. If you get good information, use that time to, take notes and work with it that way.
Okay, thanks. That's awesome. So Betsy writes, and she has kind of a longer question, and then Kieran after her had a similar question that ties in, so I'm going to pull them together. Betsy was here for a small group, and one of the questions she was hoping to get clarity on was whether she should move or not. And the guidance was to not move, but she's feeling really ready to move. And so she's just struggling. She's still talking to her archangels, and that comforts her, but she doesn't know if she's trying to fix it, if she's trying too hard, or not know how needs to have more patience. And then really at the heart of it, she says she doesn't feel as I know who I am and what my purpose is. Mm-hmm. And then Kieran's question is same question basically, am I using my gifts how I'm meant to?
Okay, so I'm going to take those as two separate things.
Okay.
So the first one is, as she was talking, Psychic Me got the fact you're so uncomfortable is a great indicator that you're not supposed to move, because you're learning a lesson, and lessons, it's earth school. It's not always fun or easy, and sometimes we have to sit through the discomfort to neutralize it and let it pass. I'm like you. I want to run. It's fight or flight, and I want to bail when stuff gets uncomfortable. But what I have learned through my guidance is once you make peace with it from the inside out, meaning your external situation, whether it's the guy you're with, your living situations aren't ideal, you're not happy in your job, once you're at peace on the inside and you're recognizing the gifts in it, the growth, spiritual growth that's coming from it, all the other outside of you goes away. It's not going to change, and we can't control it. All we can control is our perception and the way we choose to see things, right? So I do think you need to be patient. I think you need to give it to God and your guides and pray for your highest truth and healing and your partner's highest truth and healing. And then give it a little more time. And what I'm seeing right now is by the end of the year, you're going to know. So I don't know when you came to the group, but maybe it was for 8 months' time. They were talking about don't move. A lot of times when I do readings, if they said to you, hey, in 8 months, this guy's out of here, you would be like, well, then why am I going to waste the next 8 months? I'm getting him out of here tonight. Then that defeats the whole purpose of going through this relationship. And then what that means is you have unfinished business, and it's going to show up again in another relationship. And every time it shows up again, it's always messier and harder. So you want to resolve it, learn from it, grow from it, make peace with it. And then once you're detached, indifferent, it usually works itself out. So pray and give that to them. The other piece is you're not clear, you're saying, on your purpose, which tells me you never want to make huge decisions when you're not 100% aligned with your higher self's knowing. Because then we tend to choose from fear and we make mistakes. So my first suggestion would be forget bigger purpose. Focus on getting whole and connected, aligned to your higher self, your guides, and God. Okay? So God being God, Goddess, that God light spark, God spark inside of you and around you and within you and everywhere. Okay? That's love. You want to get realigned with love because that's going to resolve everything. And then once you're there, you start to get clear on your gifts and your inspiration, which eventually, hopefully, evolves into this clarity of your purpose. Okay? And just remember this, your purpose isn't always a job. There's a lot of people who don't work and are more than fulfilling their purpose. Okay? Whether they're just showing up and they're a vessel of kind words to somebody, or as a parent, that's a huge purpose in taking care of others. So pray and meditate, but first things first, go within and realign to your higher self, and then everything else, including the guy, it's gonna or the move that you were talking about, moving out, is gonna come together.
Great.
Okay. I'm sorry, did I answer the question?
Yeah, you got all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, great job.
Thanks. It's them.
Oh, I think it was Kelly, on Facebook Live, one of them said thank you for showing them that you're like them. Like
Oh,
you're like,
yeah.
just like them.
I'm way more like you than you realize. They know it. Yeah.
So the next question is, how do you hold your spiritual center or that higher self when you're in the middle of friends who are gossiping about other friends, and you know that you want to be kind, but you still want to stay centered in your spiritual self?
That's a good question. You know, it happens all the time, and gossip is such a low vibration, and I know every single person on this planet at some point in their life has fallen into that situation. It doesn't feel good, and it feels hurtful because, you know, if that was happening, a group of people are talking about you, it would hurt, right? So I would either remove yourself from the situation. You don't have to make a big scene or be dramatic, right? And honestly, sometimes it's not worth your energy. Because if the people around you are in that lower vibration of petty gossip, to me it just says they're insecure. It's their own disconnection from their God or higher self. Mm-hmm. They're in a place of fear, so they're judging. I'm reading right now, Gabby Bernstein sent me her book, Judgment Detox, and it's such a great book. It's so real. And so the bottom line is this: you're only responsible for your participation. So don't worry about the others. But what I'm getting right now to tell you, if you're in that situation and you want to shift the energy of it, do it silently. So imagine silently blessing the person or people gossiping. Imagine it's a call for love is what it is. Because again, if they're insecure and judging or being petty, they're disconnected from their higher self, which means they're separate. But the truth is we're all connected. And so you help them to come back to their place of connection and alignment to that higher self. They don't need to know what you're doing, but you might notice a shift in energy. They might all of a sudden change the subject, stop talking about it. You might just feel better. So I would that would be my advice.
Thanks.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah, so Jen writes, she came and had a reading with you a few months ago, and she just finished the book of Knowing and Worth. That's Paul Selleck's book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's coming off of that. She's asking any advice for moving forward and staying in that higher vibration.
Yeah. So that book, that's a powerful book. I am 3/4 of the way done. I know you finished it. I always pick it up when I need it, and I pull away from it when I need time to process it. And sometimes that's weeks long. But you could, to stay in that connection, you don't need Paul, but you could turn it on. Well, I'm sorry, I do Audible a lot. That's why I'm saying listening to it. You could pick up the book and read it. Same thing. But tune into the vibration of his words if you want to get realigned, and then set it down. Because he's just one more messenger. You have your direct line to that higher self and to God. So you don't need Paul or me or anyone else. And it's a vibration. There's a lot of ways, though, you can get into that vibration. And I know for a lot of times in the readings, the guides come through and say, get out in nature, or go for a run, or a walk, or yoga, because it moves energy, right? So when you breathe deep, it shifts energy from fear to love. So figure out what lights you up, what shifts you to a happier, higher vibe. And again, he might be one resource, but there's a lot of different ways that you can get there.
Great. So this is from Tina, and she wants to know, do spirits care when their loved ones get remarried or fall in love again? And what happens when they all die? Are they one big family happy? Are there no families in heaven?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do they care? Not at all. The one message I hear all the time is keep living life fully. Keep your heart open. Don't close off, shut down because you were hurt or because of loss or pain. Love is infinite. There's enough love to go around. It's, how if you have multiple children, it's not like, oh God, I have 3 kids. If I have a 4th, I'm not going to have enough love to give to them. That's so not how this works. It's infinite. So you can have many lovers. don't see it as a threat in spirit. Now, they might come through a reading and joke with you about it because in life they gave you a hard time, like they're territorial and they're possessive and loved you so much, never wanted you to be with someone. They might come through and joke about it. But at the end of the day, the message is always live fully, keep loving, embrace a new special someone. Okay, and so that's the first part. The second part is we have soul groups on the other side. And there's primary ones and secondary ones and so on. And we reconnect with these soul families. And we can do it, like I was saying to you earlier, when I sleep, I astral travel a lot and I go back to my soul group. And there's souls that have never been in this lifetime with me, but I keep seeing these same faces. I know now that they are soul spirits that I've traveled with, reincarnated with in other lifetimes, that are working with me from the other side. So whether it's in your dream state and you're going to astral travel in your deep meditative state, or when you die, leave the body and go home, you can reconnect with those family members. And you should, because it's unconditional love and you're all kind of helping and working together, whether they're in spirit or in body.
If I can add one thing, I know one of the things when you were explaining a lot of this to me, you had recommended Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls to me. So you may have mentioned it in another Facebook Live, but I think that was really helpful for me as a resource.
Those are the best. Michael Newton, he is a great teacher on all of this. And yes, those really map out what I was just talking about.
Great. So Carol has a question. She was visited by her loved ones years ago in his spirit, and she knew he was present. And he gave her 4 numbers to write down, but she doesn't quite know what they mean. So I don't know that you will know what they mean, but in general, like when they give us numbers, things like that, how do we figure it out?
Yeah, they talk about numbers a lot. So, it's every case is different. Sometimes it's numerology, where you add them all up and you come to one single number, and then you get clear on what that is. Sometimes they're giving you a birth date, a death date, an anniversary date, right? Because those, from what Spirit has shared, signify their presence. So if you see their death date, they're saying, like, I'm alive, I'm still here. Their birth date, celebrate the memory of them. Your birth date, they show me 6/28. I know a lot of you know this because I post a lot about it, but that's my pat on the back. It's like the biggest wink I can get from my guides that I'm on the right track, they're with me, and proud of how I'm showing up. And so if you see your birth date, see it as the same sign for you. What those numbers are, honestly, I don't know because I'm not in connection with that person who gave them to you. You could pray about it, but if you don't get the answer, I wouldn't obsess about it. Honestly, I would just figure out numerology-wise, add those up, and figure out what that number is. Like if it added up to 8, you can read up on numerology-wise what 8 represents.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're a little past time, so I'm going to ask one more question, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Megan said when her father first passed away, she would find coins. And then golf tees and a few feathers. And now she's finding feathers and other things. So are these all from him? Is he trying to change it up? Do signs change? Or is she projecting? So I think it's just like how you can tell with the signs.
Right. So you're not making it up. What I learned a long time ago from my dad, believe it or not, was when he was alive, he said to me, see everything as a sign. See every thought that comes to you as a divine thought. Even if you have your ego thoughts mixed in with that, there's a reason you're tuned into it. And it's true. So you're not making it up, first of all. Signs can change. So sometimes you start out with feathers and then it evolves into coins. And then from there, golf tees. And sometimes it's all of them. And so I would just encourage you to believe, because the more you believe, the more miracles that are going to happen. And then maybe use that as a starting point to start that conversation with your dad. What are you trying to tell me, Dad? Like, am I on the right track? Is there more? And then he'll talk to you. They're playful. And he'll give you, maybe other ways to let you know what he meant by those signs. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm big into signs. I love signs. They make me happy because I think life is hard. I think it's fair to say it's Earth school. And I always say when we die, it's like summer vacation, okay? If we've done it right. if
Right.
we had good intentions, not perfect, we all make mistakes, but as long as we had good intentions, you have a lot to look forward to. But this is school, and sometimes we just need that dangling carrot or the breadcrumbs on our path to know we're not alone, our efforts are recognized and appreciated, we're doing a great job, and to keep up the good work. And so I would just encourage you, if you feel good when you get your signs, ask for them and you'll keep getting more. Okay, well, it looks like our time is up for this session. I mean, I'm going to do we don't know the date yet, but the end of August, I will do this again. I'm going to be doing it often. And so I'm really grateful that you joined me. Grateful again that you were patient and trusting that we had to move it. Again, it is Mercury retrograde. So it's perfect. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again. Stay connected through my website and through all my social media. And until we meet again, I'm wishing you brightest blessings and all love.